Hello and welcome. My name is Miranda and I've been doing Inktober since 2018. I have some great videos that are still valid to this day about how to properly prepare for Inktober. I will put that playlist up in the corner for you and in the description box below so you can find it both places. So definitely go watch those videos too if you are going to try Inktober this year. I think they'll be really valuable resources for you. I will give you tips in this video, of course, but I'm mostly going to be showing you how I am treating this Inktober a little bit differently. And when you do a challenge for so long, sometimes it's really nice to do it a little bit differently. Let's get started. This is the sketchbook I have chosen to use for this year's Inktober. Now, this has enough pages, 60 pages, that it will fit 2 years of Inktobers, and I'm planning on using it in the way that I am going to save the last 31 pages for next year or the year after, some other year's Inktober. And that just means I have to combine 2 prompts on 1 page for one of the pages, so not a big deal. But the reason I'm using this is because this is 100% cotton watercolor, and Inktober is supposed to be, I mean, if you're following it traditionally, used to practice your inking skills. And I don't really like this paper for watercolor. I am going to use watercolor. I'll explain. The reason I chose this paper is, first of all, I've used my A4 version of this sketchbook a lot. And I'm actually near the end, and I have used it for watercolor mostly. I've tested gouache and acrylic in it here and there as well. I don't really like it for watercolor. Like I said, it's great for gouache, it's great for just playing, it's great as a sketchbook, whatever, and it is smooth. Even though these are supposed to be cold pressed paper, it feels more like a hot press, which means ink and ink pens and microns, all of those inky things will work really well on this paper. You can see this is the exact same paper as this. I also travel all the time in October, so I wanted this smaller size. When I bought these, I bought them all together and I bought every size they have, I think, which ended up being 5 different sketchbooks if I'm remembering correctly. So I have 5 of these that I don't really like for watercolor that I need to use up. Enough talking. I will tell you my plan for this year. Going to use all my inking supplies. This entire bag is so full I couldn't zip it. Full of just liners because I used to subscribe to art subscription boxes, and it seemed like we would get a lot of these in every box. And they accumulated. And then I inherited my grandma's. I got some for gifts. It just accumulates, as you know. Oh, look, there's a couple of these. These are my favorites. Anyway, I need to get into these and use them, right? I do pull one out as I'm using them for my everyday practice as I run out. And I have 2 since, I think, April 5th in my used up bin. Or not, is it April 5th? I don't know. I don't think I actually started my I used it up bin until maybe July. Point is, they don't get used very quickly, and Inktober is a super fun excuse to get all this out and play with the different nibs and whatnot that are on each of these pens, as well as getting out things like fountain pens. I do have fountain pens and fountain pen ink that I want to play with, and I have this that now I haven't used it since I got it, and it's all gummed up, and I have to see if I can get it working again. But that's on the purview here. You saw from my previous sketchbooks that I do things that don't have color, and then I kind of go crazy and put color on a page or 2. But for this, I'm going to watercolor and do reverse coloring so that it's just easier for me. So watercolor on every page. I'm so excited about that. I'll end up with some kind of background similar to this and this before I put lines on it, and this. And then each day, as the prompt comes up, and I'm actually filming this a week before September 1st, so I don't have the official pretty pictured list out yet, but I can show this since you're gonna see this after. September 1st. Anyway, like for mustache, I'll paint a background that maybe could look like a person. I don't know. And then draw a mustache on October 1st. Weave, I was thinking of just getting a flat brush. And with my watercolor, I could just do stripes down, stripes across. And then with the ink on October 2nd, I will do some kind of pot holder weave looking thing. And so on. Deer, I can just paint a simple, colorful background that maybe looks like a landscape. Like this one you saw in here. Like that, and then I could put deer in the landscape. Just something super simple and fun, but it will make it fun for me as a watercolor artist and still challenge me by using the ink in October. So all of September, I'll be putting in the watercolor backgrounds, and then in October, I'll be doing the inking. And if I think about it too, sometimes in September, I will do pencil work for some sketches. Some sketches I don't think are going to need pencil work, but a few might, like the deer. I might want to draw in pencil first so I can erase things and get it just right before actual ink gets put on the page. So in a nutshell, I have just found Inktober to be a great time to use up sketchbooks now that I just have laying around, and it's a fun challenge to do that, and it's exciting. It's so satisfying to use a supply you already have that's been sitting there a long time, hasn't been getting any use, and just do it. I encourage you to do it. I still get to incorporate watercolor and then ink in October. As promised, I'm going to show you a little of the process here. Now, this is not my usual filming setup, so do not, if you're new to my channel, do not think this is how my videos get filmed normally, but I was hosting a class and did not have my regular filming setup, so this is just using a little portable tripod, basically, except it's not. You can kind of see it on the right side there. That holds my phone. And so I tried to get some of this filming while I could, because this was the time that I actually had available to work on this Inktober sketchbook. And it was the first opportunity I got, and it wasn't until September 9th. So it was quite a bit after the first part of this video that I filmed. But you can see here, this is for the prompt mustache. And I am trying to be loose with my watercolor, yet still create something that will resemble a person through the colors that I can later draw a face on. And I am taking a drawing human anatomy class right now, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to draw fairly successfully. I've done a lot of portraits in the past, and I have drawn them successfully from scratch without tracing, but now I feel like I have even more tools available taking this class to do it with a little bit more confidence. So I'm excited for that. This is also a great excuse to do a lot of loose watercolor painting. And since the sketchbook is only 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches, or 14 centimeters by 14 centimeters, it's not too big of a surface to fill either. So when I brought all of this stuff to class with me, I packed as many of my small palettes as I could quickly find. My studio was super hyper organized for my database project, so I did have to open up a couple of bins to get out some of the smaller palettes that I wanted to bring with me, but it was so worth it because I basically switched watercolor palettes on every single page here. So I'm starting Inktober with just a bundle of fun stuff, and having something already started is going to be so useful for getting Inktober done successfully. And you can see Weave over there on the left. I did not get that recorded, unfortunately. I am also writing down at the bottom or somewhere on the page of each page which watercolor palette I used or which watercolor brand I used for the background. I have found through years of using sketchbooks that I really, really appreciate it when I write down which medium it was, which brand, and so on. It just makes it really helpful because I'll go back to a page and I'll be like, ooh, I really like these colors. What palette was this? And the information usually is right there. Now the process you're seeing right now is for the prompt crown, and I was going to make some crown-like shapes, but then I wasn't really sure how it would turn out or how it would look. So instead I'm just putting some colors that are kind of adjacent to each other, close to each other, and I will have to make up the difference with the ink. And I think a couple pages like that will be super fun to get back to in October. So I don't know if you've thought about this, but by working in a sketchbook like this with a wet medium in the beginning, yes, it could take a long time, but I did pack my heat gun with me to class. And so when I was ready for the spread to be flipped over to the next page, or when I'm just finished with this painting and this example, I just brought my sketchbook over to the heat gun and dried off both pages. And yes, in a couple of the watery pages, that does affect how it dries, how it looks, but it doesn't matter because the point of this sketchbook is the inking. It will be the point of the sketchbook anyway, will be the inking. So it's fine, I guess, if some of it dries a little bit not right. So it's not something I would always want to do for my more serious watercolor paintings. But in this case, using a heat gun is the only way to try and get this done more quickly. Now for this next one you're seeing, I have a gift I received from a lovely friend. This is Daniel Smith's Lunar Earth, Lunar Red Rock, and Lunar Blue. And the prompt for this one will be murky. And so I wanted to use all of these, what I felt could be murky colors, except really they're just granulating, and when you mix them together a certain way, will probably end up a bit murky, and see what kind of background I could get, and then I'll have to get creative with the inking in October. Now this one here is for the prompt deer that I was telling you about, where I probably will just do a landscape kind of thing and put deer in it. So I am using my A Gallo watercolor palette for this. I'm so thrilled to have pulled this palette out again. You can see over there on the far right, it is not very used. All of the pans are pretty full because I have so many watercolors. This palette has been a little bit neglected, but the colors are just gorgeous. So it's going to be used more at some point, probably once my database project is finished, because that really is taking all of my time and attention right now. But it sure was fun just throwing some colors down in a pretty loose watercolor landscape. Now we flipped pages again, and the one on the left I did for Pierce, but I forgot to film it. Basically, that was Core's Payne's Gray with sap green dropped in it, and I just let it spread however it wanted to because Core is really good at that. And then on this side, I believe I'm using my Van Gogh watercolors. That background is that beautiful cerulean blue. This one happens to have a white in it, and oh, it reminds me of a manganese blue hue, or a manganese blue itself, but they're calling it cerulean blue. It's lovely. And then I'm using a combination of a nickel azo yellow and one of the other yellows, I can't remember which one, and letting it be a little bit more opaque on here. And I am putting the paint basically in the shape of a starfish, and we'll have to do all the lovely inking details on the top later. So it takes a little finessing to get the starfish shape just right, but I think this one's going to be fun to get back to. And after a bit under the heat gun, I pulled the tape off, flipped to the next page, and this one turns out to be my favorite one so far, and it spurred an idea for a much larger painting. It is so exciting to me when sketchbook work like this gives you the inspiration for a much larger watercolor piece. I am thrilled with this, and hopefully I will do my larger watercolor piece. This one, I believe I was using my Winsor & Newton watercolor palette, but would you believe I broke my own rule and I didn't write down which watercolors these were, and even though I'm only doing this voiceover 2 days later, I can't quite remember, but I think it is based on the colors I'm seeing. Also, many of these students that were in this class walked by and they also really loved this background. One lady thought that it looked like feathers, or you could make really pretty feathers out of it, and I thought that was a great idea too. And that's it. That's all I could get done in a 3-hour session. Granted, I was the hostess of that class that I was filming in, and it's a class where you can come in and get my help if you need it. So I walked around some, checked in with students' work, but I'm going to have to do the rest of these a little bit faster, a little less thinking, a little less walking around, and keep watching my channel for updates on this new way of doing Inktober. I hope you got some useful tips from this video. Let me know if you have any other questions about Inktober in the comments below. I'd be glad to answer anything that I can. Alright guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
I like the tail end of that one. She's marked.
Can't see its face.
It's a mark like this is where your tail should have ended.
Yeah.
Aww.
One Raya likes.
So cute. Right.